Right, so what we want to look at is solving quadratic inequalities. Now, as it says inequalities, so it does not equal. What we have done so far is equation.
Yes.
Right, so equation means it must be equal. So this is inequality. Right, so efficient, inefficient, so it's not. So it is not not equalities, right? So meaning, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with like less than equals to, greater than equals to, greater than, right? Now, as it says it's quadratic, that means there must be something that's square, right? So let's say you have, let's say x plus 1, x minus 2 is greater than 0, right? Now, if you look at the left-hand side, x plus 1, x minus 2, this is in a quadratic form, right? And then on the right-hand side, it says it's greater than 0. So this is inequality because it does not equal to 0, yeah? So it's greater than 0. Now, what do we want to do here is to find range of x that fits this statement, okay? So how do we do that? Okay, so first thing to do is to find the roots, determine the roots. So what are the roots? What are the roots? The roots means when this equals 0. Yeah? So the roots here, the roots are x is negative 1 or 2. Correct? Yeah? So that means when x equals to negative 1, the entire left-hand side is 0. Or when x equals 2, the entire left-hand side equals 0. Okay? Now, to find this means we then need to check out, to attempt to find a range. Okay? So, then how do we do this? Now, one of the ways to do would be to do a simple sketch of this quadratic graph. Okay? So, first of all, is this a minimum curve or is it a maximum curve?
A minimum.
It is a minimum. Why is that a minimum?
X is positive.
Because x squared. Huh? Because the coefficient of x squared is 1, so which is positive. Okay? So that says if this is a horizontal axis, then the curve will look like this. Right? And then, what is the meaning of roots again? What's the meaning of roots again? Yeah, so where it touches the horizontal axis. Huh? So then the two numbers will be negative 1 and 2 here. Alright? And as it says, it is greater than 0. Now when it is greater than 0, what does that mean? Now again, if you look at the entire left-hand side, then this entire left-hand side is actually equals to y, correct? Now what happened to the horizontal axis? Horizontal axis sometimes we just call the x-axis, or if we have to write an equation, what is the equation of the horizontal axis? It must be y equals, what is the horizontal axis? What's the equation of the horizontal axis?
Y equals mx plus.
The horizontal axis. So y equals to 0. Huh?
I guess that.
So this line is y equal to 0. Because on the x-axis, the y coordinate is always 0. That's why y is 0. Okay? Right? Now, here, what we want to look at would be to determine what happens to this x. Now, if you look at these two roots here, okay, let's look at negative 1. When you look at x equals negative 1, how is it that it becomes greater than 0? Where do you move from x equals negative 1? do you move towards the left-hand side of x equal to -1, or you move to the right-hand side so that it is greater than 0?
Right.
So that the y is greater than 0. So this is the y, yes? So you have to move towards the left-hand side so that the y becomes above the x-axis. From x equals to -1, if you move towards the left, the corresponding y coordinates will go above the x-axis. Yes? If you look at that sketch there, correct? Okay, let's try the other root. The other root is 2 here. If you look at the number 2, for x to move towards the right, then the y coordinates, the corresponding y coordinates will move above the x-axis. Yes? Alright? So meaning, in this sense, if you look at from the left-hand side, if x moves towards the left, the y coordinates becomes greater than 0. And if you look at from number 2, if you move towards the right, the y coordinates becomes greater than 0. And what was it that we want to look at? We want to look at the entire y is greater than 0. Okay, so that's what we want. Hence, the solution of this would be x less than -1 or x greater than 2. And this is the solution. It is important, okay? It is important to do this sketch. Alright, so because this sketch is part of your working. Alright, okay? So let's try another example. Again, we have something like this, 2x minus 1, bracket multiplied by x plus 2. Again, so what do we look for? We write down the roots first. So the roots are?
Half and negative.
Okay, -2 and half. Then again, we do that simple sketch. So that simple sketch means you must have a horizontal axis. And then, is it a minimum or is it a maximum?
One of the two.
It is still a minimum, right? So the minimum will look something like this. So the roots would be -2, which must be on the left-hand side because the other one is a half, must be on the right-hand side.
Why is 2x minus 1?
The roots means when that y equals 0. What are the values of x that results y equals 0? Okay, those are the roots. So again here, we want it to be less than 0. So if it is less than 0, then the product must be negative. So that means it must fall below the x-axis. So which region that it is below the x-axis? Is it going to be this or this or this? Is it 1, 2 or is it 3?
2.
It can only be that 2, yes? So the region can only be here. Alright? So your solution would be, since it is also equal, then your solution must also have equal. So x must be greater than equals to -2, less than equals to half. So this is the solution. For example, when you have something like this, 3x plus 1 and 2 minus x, that is less than equal to 0. Now, how can you do this? Alright? Okay, I'll show you both. Okay? First of all, if you just look at it on its own, is it a minimum or is it a maximum curve?
Maximum.
What's the x squared? Yeah.
Because the x squared is now, the coefficient of x squared is -3, right? So if you do on its own like this,
Negative
so
x
the roots,
times 3x is negative 3x squared. You can't do negative, that's maximum.
what are the roots? The roots are -1/3 and 2. Yes?
How is it negative? Sir, may I ask how you get the
This is negative 2.
how
The roots means when this whole thing equal to 0.
Wait, so isn't it -2?
It's opposite. 2 minus x is 0. What is x?
But isn't it negative x plus 2 then? So it's negative. That's
Negative
why
x plus 2 is the same thing, no?
it's negative.
What is negative? What are you talking about?
X is
If you're going to do it this way, then your curve must be like this. Alright? So the roots are negative 1/3 or 2. And this time, it is less than 0. So if it is less than 0, where should it be? It must be this region or this region. Less than 0, yes?
Y is less what?
So y is less than 0, okay?
Y is
Alright? But because it is a maximum curve, that's why it looks like this. Alright? So again, your solution will be,
Y is less than 0.
so your solution must be x less than, because it also has equal, so you must put that equal sign there, negative 1/3, or x must be greater than equals to 2. Okay? Now, if you're going to do it the other way around, and you can actually say,
Y is less than 0 means Y is what?
Y is less than 0, then y is what? Negative.
Yeah, so if Y is this is 0,
Yeah.
you go down only it's negative, right?
Yeah, but why can't
okay, for this, if there is a negative sign in front, and the whole thing is less than 0, it would actually be the same as saying x minus 2 and 3x plus 1 is greater than equal to 0.
How?
Because now there's no negative x.
Because there's no negative sign now. Okay? So in this sense, then I'm actually rewriting it so that the coefficient of x squared becomes positive 3, and then it becomes like what we did for the first two. So it becomes a minimum curve. The roots are the same as negative 1/3 and 2. And then if it has to be greater than 0, which are the region? It must be both sides. That gives you the same solution.